starting in about 30 seconds. Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to our monthly complimentary conference call produced by the Stages of Love. I'm Thomas Kuster. I'm the founder of the Stages of Love, and I'm the author and presenter of tonight's call, Acceptance. It's really an honor and it's a privilege to be with each and every one of you, and I just want to thank you for being with me. And I am recording this call, and there is a video that is attached to the call, provided it works well, but I think it is. I tested it out, and it was pretty good. So a little bit about how the call works. So in this moment, everybody is muted. So you can hear me, and you cannot at this point hear each other. Now, I'll open the call with some thoughts and some ideas, and at certain intervals, there'll be an opportunity for you to participate. You might want to share something that comes up for you in the conversation. You may have something on your mind that you want to put in. Everything is acceptable. I will make it work inside the context of the call, and if I can't, then I'll let you know I can't. But mostly anything will work. And how you'll do this is when I open the call, I'll let you know that I'm opening the call, and you'll simply say your first name, and then I'll call on you, okay? So what is acceptance? This is just a rich conversation, because when you think about acceptance or you think about to accept, so if you look in the dictionary and you look up acceptance, well, first of all, it's a verb, and it is the action of consenting to or receiving something offered. It can also be regarded as a favorable reception, excuse me, approval, favor. It could mean in agreement of or taking. So just think this through with me, because tonight our intention is to distinguish acceptance from a different point of view than just what the definition gives us. You know, if I offer you a piece of candy, then you could accept that piece of candy or not. There's generally no emotion attached to that kind of offering and acceptance. If I make an offer on your home to purchase it, you can accept it or not. So in that context, this definition of acceptance is clear and it's simple. But if you bring acceptance into quality of life, if you bring acceptance into excuse me, quality of relationships, well, now it might be a little different. If you listen closely, you can hear a very subtle dominance and submission in that regard, in the equation of acceptance. For instance, if I have to, no, excuse me, forget the have to. If I am to accept that things are the way they are in my life in this moment today, then for me to actually accept comes from a place of assessment, perhaps even judgment. Listen, in some cases, it might even be I'm making right now wrong, and I've got to move through some spaces of resistance. So, by the way, wherever there's resistance, there is some kind of suffering going on. So, perhaps this is one possible view or experience of acceptance. My spouse is the way my spouse is. And if I'm going to have a marriage or relationship that lasts over time and has harmony, then acceptance is going to have to come into play. Because as everybody on this call knows, and everybody viewing this video knows, you can't change people. But look at your own life. Everybody that's on this call, watching the video, I trust all of you have done probably a tremendous amount of work, transformational work, self-improvement work, self-development. And yet, if you look honestly, there is fundamentally a trying to control and predict your other half. In fact, there probably is a trying to change something about him or her. So in this conversation, we're looking to distinguish acceptance in that domain. We're looking beyond the definition, which, by the way, makes it rather conceptual, and we want to bring it to a place that's experiential and a place that might open up something in each and every life that's represented here today. Now, when we want to distinguish something, first we start with the definition. We want to look at what does it actually mean? And then, at some point, we're going to start to consider, well, what is it we don't mean? And then through our collective conversations and investigations, come up with a way to relate to acceptance experientially that expands the reality of who you really are. Now, I've said a lot. I'm trusting that you are with me. I know how it can go when we're on a conference call like this and we can't see each other. You know, you probably get distracted. That's natural. I want to give you a moment, and I would like to just start off with each of us looking at our relationships. Now, the relationships you look at might be with a spouse or lover. It might be a relationship with a friend or a family member. Listen, it could also be a relationship with your body or a relationship with your mind, a relationship with your profession, your job, or any other relationship that is important to you, up to life and simply life in general. So take a moment. Let me just look at my clock here. Take a moment and seriously look at your relationships and choose one. Choose one where you could see that a new space of acceptance would make a difference. Keep looking. You have about 20 seconds, I think. Okay, that's been a minute. I'm opening the lines.
You are now unmuted.
So be conscious that other people can hear you at this moment. And if you would, let me just hear from you. What relationship are you taking on? And tell me just a little bit about that relationship. So just say your first name and I'll call on you.
Jean.
Hi, Jean.
Hi. The relationship that I'm looking at is actually with one of my sisters. Her name is Joan.
Yeah.
And we are not in communication right now.
Mm-hmm.
She is, I don't know how to say it, she decided to do something to inform our entire family, kind of behind my back, about my boyfriend's past.
Yeah.
And I have no problem. I told my whole family about his past, but there was a press release by a district attorney that had some lies in it. And anyway, just the fact that she did that and the conversation that we had about it, we are not in communication right now.
Yeah. So what would you need to accept to have peace of mind, to be your highest self, to have power? What do you think you might need to accept?
I mean, what comes up for me is just that she feels the way that she feels.
Yes, she does, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
And given that she feels the way she feels, now everybody listen up, what automatically is there for you, just as a human being?
I'm not sure.
Is there some resistance there?
There is some resistance. I mean, I do feel like I've accepted that she feels the way she feels.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's look at it a different way, Jean. Given you brought this relationship to the conversation,
yes.
What in this relationship, given the way it is, if you brought acceptance to it, would give you more peace, more freedom, more ability to be your highest self? Because I imagine, now I'm just imagining, and you can say it so or not, right? I'm imagining that there is some resistance to not being in communication with your sister, and it's probably very difficult to get her to communicate with you when she's already decided that that's just not going to happen.
Well, that's definitely there. It's also that I'm not interested in communicating with her either.
Okay.
And I think that there is a I want to say it's like an automatic or societal or familial, I don't even know what to call it, like obligation or something.
Yeah.
But I'm she's my sister.
Like somehow you should be working this out with her. So that's what's in the background. Is that what you're saying? From a society point of view, from the kind of work that we do, certainly not a single one of us want to have any relationship that matters to us be incomplete. And that is in your space. Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I got that. So then, having said that, and having looked at everything again, what's one thing that if you accepted would bring more power and more ability of you being your highest self in this moment?
what comes up for me is that it is the way it is.
What is the it?
The level where we are in our relationship.
Well, you already said you accepted that. How about, what if you brought acceptance to society, including the culture that we've created together, is the way that it is?
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I mean, you could just accept that and accept that you're handling it the way you're handling it until there's some other opportunity or some other option, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anything else you want to put in? I promise there's going to be some stuff that comes up, okay? But right now, this is good to get us started. So thank you. Very good. Excellent.
Thank you.
Somebody else, what relationship are you looking at? I gave you a whole minute to look at a relationship. Come on.
This is Antonia.
And I know most of you, and you're talkers.
This is Antonia.
Hi, Antonia.
Hello. Well, I have a relationship that is just bugging me. That's why I'm putting it forth, but it's with my body, and it's not with a person.
Yeah, got it.
It's
And is
not
there
an
anything...
uncommon one.
What, darling?
Not an uncommon one, but if you would like to, coach me on that.
Yeah, I'd like to just pull some things out for the conversation, so thank you. Thanks for bringing it up, because it isn't uncommon, you're right. I think if you and I have done enough work with individuals that we both know that mostly people have something about themselves they'd really like to be different. I'd really like to be taller, okay? Let's just go there.
Ain't gonna happen either, huh?
I don't think so. And that brings up a whole other thing. Like, anything's possible? Okay, come on.
Yeah.
But that's another conversation for another month. So, Antonia, if you're willing, and by the way, and you may not be, and that's fine too, okay, absolutely. But is there anything specific about your body that you'd be willing to say, or do you want to keep it general?
No, I can be very specific. I have this mass of tissue in my belly area that wasn't there 2 years ago, and it's now there, and it bugs the heck out of me that I'm not as fit and in good a shape and thin as I used to be very recently, 2 years ago. Yeah,
right? So now, only thing I'm going to put in, just if you don't mind, I'm just going to throw in a little coaching on this one. Because what you said was, it bugs me. And that's fine. It absolutely is fine. You can be bugged all you want, right? But we always want to come from being cause in the matter. Now, a lot of times, people will take that distinction and turn it into, like, something about that massive tissue you have. No. Being cause in the matter is all about your speaking and your relationship to it. So, what you could say that would be more empowering and have you be cause in the matter is, I get bugged about it. Versus it bugs me, because it can't bug you. You understand? You get bugged about it. Yes, that's 100% right on. But it cannot get you to be bugged. It cannot bug you. Got it?
Right.
So that's just something that, to be responsible for. Now, in the world of acceptance, what about this particular issue with your body, if you brought acceptance to it, would make a difference in you being your highest, most powerful self?
Something in the area of accepting that people see me for who I am and not for what I look like.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I got that. Gosh, there's a lot there, and I think as we continue in this conversation, I'm going to be coming back to some of the points. Is there anything else you want to put in? And if there's not, I'm going to see if I can get one more share, and then we'll move into the conversation a little deeper.
Okay.
Anything else?
No. Not right now.
Antonia, thank you for stepping up. I really appreciate it. It would be great if I could get one more person on the mat.
Pilar? Pilar?
Okay, one more time.
Pilar?
Oh, Pilar, hi!
Hi!
Good to hear your voice.
Oh,
hey,
thank you.
By the way, let me say this. And it was good to hear Antonia's voice. It was great. And it was also great to hear Jean's voice, okay? But, Pilar, yeah, it's really nice to hear you. So tell me, what relationship are you looking at?
Well, it's the love of my life, my boyfriend Ernie.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at accepting things that I cannot change, like he has an ex with 4 children. And so that, I've accepted that, and I feel like I'm pretty good with that. But it's the acceptance of the things that, like, I feel that he could take more initiative in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
like
one
what?
area.
What could he take more initiative in?
Finances.
Okay. Very good. Got that.
So,
Oh, you had something else to say, so go ahead. You don't have to elaborate on the initiative. I'm sorry. Yeah, my fault.
I'm like, let me get out my list. No, okay. There's a list. I'm sure he has a list too for me.
I bet he does. I'm going to call Ernie right away.
right. I think I guess I don't know what was I going to say. I think it was just that certain things I'm great at accepting, but when I don't know I feel like him and I are both not living into our highest potential.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know where that gauge is to say, oh, let's step it up this much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have a hard time accepting is I don't know what that looks like. Am I just wanting too much? Which it doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like, oh, this is, I think, normal when you want to live an extraordinary life. It's normal to want these things.
Got it.
So I think that's where I have the acceptance is, ooh, when do I say, okay, this is enough? When can I accept that?
Yeah, very good. Got that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move on. And chances are I might tap in and ask you to say something a little later. Pilar, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to mute the phones, everybody. Oh, shoot. I did something funky.
You are now muted.
There we go. So now everybody's muted. Thank you, the 3 people who got on the mat and put in what you put in. So now I want you to just think with me. Think with me about acceptance from the viewpoint of your sharing. And I want you to find, and everybody you should be looking, at their share and then apply it to your own life, of course. I want you to look for the subtle domination that is included in this realm, if you will, of acceptance, the way we're relating to it at this moment. So like for Pilar, when she talks about the love of her life, and I'm stressing that, love of my life, because that's what you said, right? That's what you said. And then you need to take a look at, do you accept Ernie as the love of your life? That's just a question, nothing you have to answer, just something to kind of get you a little stimulated. And then for Jean with her sister, well, everybody heard that Jean, she's gotten to a place that, she's accepted that it is the way it is. But what I didn't say to Jean as we were interacting is that I know Jean's heart. And I know in her heart, accepting this is a very bitter pill to swallow. Not like acceptance needs to be sweet. That's not my point. But I bet if you really look, you will find some resistance to the way that it is. Not a bad thing, just something to notice. Because anything we resist, Warner Earhart used to say, whatever you push against, you get stuck to. So it's almost impossible to get any peace when, in a subtle way, we are pushing against what is. And then when we listen to Antonia and she talks about our body, and every single one of us can take a look at our own bodies and what we deal with as far as what we resist about our body, what we don't accept about our body, and the like. But I'm going to keep this for the moment. I'm going to keep this in a relationship, and then you can apply it to any relationship with anything, including the body, but it's going to be easier to talk about if I take it like in the direction of Ernie. So you see, if Pilar gets to accept Ernie and Ernie's ways, can you see that that puts her in a dominant position? It creates a dominant and submissive kind of relationship that's very subtle and not one that I think we pay attention to, nor do I think that we are responsible for it, because there is a consequence to that kind of relating. If you take a look at your body is the way your body is. If I take a dominant position about my body, so for me, we'll use my height. And by the way, just for the record, I got nothing going on about my height. Would I like to be taller? If I had a menu and it said, hey, Kuster, instead of this 5'6", and by the way, on the internet, I'm 5'8", but this 5'6", if I could be 5'10" or 5'11", I would say yes, absolutely. But I've totally accepted the height that I am, so this is not an issue, but it is something I can use. And if I do not or had not completely accepted that about myself, then think about this. You only have so much capacity at any given moment to deal with any given thing. If you've already got some of your capacity filled up, like if I'm walking around constantly in the background dealing with my height, well, there is a lot that I'm going to miss, a lot that I can't see. Now, I'm turning my page here, so give me a second. So now what I want to do is I'd like to shift the view of acceptance so that it can now become a distinction that we can use to empower each and every one of us. So hear me clearly, and everybody pay attention. There's another possible way that we could view acceptance. And that is in a way to create an experience that's more real. Experiential versus conceptual versus talking to myself. There is an experience that I can be caused in. You could view it as acknowledgement. You could view it as admission and then cooperation and recognition. So I want to say that again. So when Pilar is looking at her relationship with Ernie that she has chosen as the love of her life, very important, that's very important to note, then instead of accepting Ernie, which puts you in a dominant position, what if you acknowledge Ernie? Excuse me. Now, I got to clear something up because I know the moment I say acknowledge Ernie, everybody on the call perhaps is thinking of, so what would you say to Ernie? Like, oh, Ernie, I want to acknowledge you for being this or that. No. I don't mean that. I don't mean that at all. There is the way Ernie is and the way Ernie isn't. And you could just acknowledge that in yourself. It's got nothing to do with talking to him about it. But you have already assessed it and in some cases judged it. But have you created the possibility of simply acknowledging, okay, the love of my life is this way, and he's not that way. And then Antonia, what I heard in your speaking is that you've admitted that this is a part of your body and it is the way that it is. Now, there's resistance to it right now. We'll get to that. But I just want to shift from accepting to acknowledging. You see, today, in the Bay anyway, I don't know what it's like in other areas, we had a lot of rain today. And anybody that I talk to, as I'm talking to you right now, I could acknowledge the rain. Could I accept the rain? Well, I guess I could accept the rain, but by virtue of being able to accept the rain, I could also reject the rain. And would that make any difference? No. Pilar can accept Ernie, but the virtue of accepting him gives her the possibility of rejecting him. And by the way, he's the love of her life. So this kind of rejecting him doesn't mean she's going anywhere. You understand? It's very important that you keep it in the context of, she's not going anywhere. Ernie's the love of her life. But by trying to accept Ernie the way Ernie is, leaves you with the possibility of rejecting Ernie the way that Ernie is. And then there's a cost to you, and there's a cost to the relationship in general. I trust this is landing. Make some notes to yourself because in a moment I'm going to open the lines and you'll get to put in whatever's there for you. Now, consider that this kind of acceptance that I'm talking about, it's not passive. It's still active. It's an active recognition of what's so. It's an acknowledgement and even a cooperation with things being the way they are and being the way they're not. People being the way they are and being the way they're not. You being the way you are and being the way you're not. I even talk about things being the way they are and being the way they're not in the context of simply not being the way you want them to be. You get that? That's the big contention for a human being. This isn't the way I want it to be. Listen, it's not easy bringing this kind of acceptance to the areas of life that are not the way you want them to be. But consider that the way life goes, you're rarely given those options. I wasn't given an option, Tom. Rain today or not? Tom, 5'6" or 6 foot. Antonia, tight and thin for the rest of your life. These were not options that were available. I opened the book, it said 5'6". How many of you know what I'm talking about? Of course, a human being often struggles with things not being the way we want them to be. But we all know, every single one of us without exception, even the ones who fight the most, we all know it's a losing battle. Take note of that. We all know it's a losing battle. So therefore, you must question your motive. Why would you choose that battle when you know it is a certain defeat? You don't even need to answer the question. The question is not intended for an answer. The question is intended for a shift in who you're being with anything and everything, including your body. Now, if in fact, listen clearly, you take the action of recognition, so you recognize, I recognize it's raining. I recognize I'm 5'6" and I'm never going to be anything different. Well, I might get shorter, but you get it. So acknowledging, admitting, cooperating with the things that they are the way they are and they're not the way they're not right now. Once we do that, once we align with what's so, once we align with, at the stages of love, we call it life unfolding. We say that's our purpose. Our purpose is to align with life unfolding. Because life is unfolding, isn't it? And it's unfolding in this very moment, isn't it? It is. Is there anything you can change about this moment other than your relationship to the moment? Not a damn thing. Nothing. Quit pretending. Quit pretending. You're giving your power to pretense. And then you're pretending you're not doing that. It's a dangerous game if you want an extraordinary life. And by the way, align with people unfolding. Ernie is the way Ernie is, and Ernie is becoming the way Ernie is becoming. I wonder what Ernie would become if I wasn't in the way. Don't know, just saying, something to look at. But when you are that way, when who you are is that you acknowledge, admit, and recognize each moment as the moment it is, and you give up all resistance to it, then you can create. Then you can apply for change. But it starts always and all the time, even right this moment, the active recognition that things are the way they are and they're not the way they're not, period. I don't need to bring emotion to it. I don't need to bring a story to it. I don't even need to bring a plan to it at that moment. And that people are the way they are and they're not the way they're not right now. Now, to bring anything other than that, recognition, acknowledgement, to a situation is a perfect combination for ongoing suffering. Now, here's what it does give you. It does give you lots of stories to tell. And you've got to really look for yourself. How important is that to you? Seriously. When I was younger, I've traveled most of my career. I've done a lot of travel, and I enjoy doing it that way. But things would happen when I was on the road. And I remember at a very young age, I was early 20s, I guess, and I remember that I almost wanted something crazy to happen. And then I would generate a big old story out of it and share it with everybody, you know. Like one time I got robbed. Somebody broke into my car and robbed me. And they took my bags which were luggage, right? Well, the story was, so they stole it. The good news was it was all dirty clothes. There was nothing in there that anybody would want, except me, of course. And then the very next morning, I got broken into again. But that time they took all my CDs, and they took my, I think they just took my CDs, and in those days we had tapes, cassette tapes. They took all my cassette tapes. And then my story about that was, you know, at that time I only listened to Christian music. I didn't have any regular music, so, you know, it was another story. So I was really interested in the drama. And you can tell I still have a little bit of that going on now, right? But you want to look and see how important that is to you compared to having peace, having joy, really living the rest of your life peaceful. So recognizing the actuality of things and people are the way they are and they aren't the way they are not is the potential to apply wisdom to anything, to actually shift our relationship to what is occurring in ways that might be profoundly healing and even transforming. But without acceptance at this level, remember, this level is acknowledgement, admission, recognition. One is then in this, where one is in this very moment. Without that, is that you don't know where to stand. And if you don't know where to stand, it will be very difficult to take the first step. So it's a lot of things. I've said a lot of things, and I want to give you an opportunity to participate and put anything in the space that might be there for you. So I'm going to open up the line. Before I do that, though, I am going to give you about 30 seconds just to kind of get your thoughts together, okay? So get your thoughts together, and then I'll open the lines.
You are now unmuted.
Okay, the lines are open. Just say your first name, and I'll call on you, and you just jump right in and give us whatever you got.
Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hey, Thomas. I have basically the same relationship issue as Antonia.
Okay.
It's a body issue, and what I'm struggling with is I have a lot of friends who've been married for many, many years. They've been together for a lot of time. They've had their children together. So the women's bodies don't look like they did when they were first married. However, nor do the men's actually, but they've grown together. They love each other. They remember what they used to look like. They remembered why they fell in love, et cetera, et cetera. Well,
they just turned the lights down really low.
Yeah, exactly. But so I'm single, so in seeking or looking for or whatever a new relationship, I don't have that same luxury of this person loves me because I had their children and that's why I have these stretch marks or that type of thing. They didn't know me when I was in good shape and they can say, okay, well you had a hip replaced 2 years ago. This is why you kind of got out of shape. So where my issue is in that I understand that I can accept it for myself. However, I don't see men accepting it because I don't truly believe in my brain or my heart that what I look like is what they're looking for. I think if they choose me, they're going to settle for me because maybe they can't get what it is they actually want. So that's where but it feels very real to me.
No, I got it. I'm sorry that I've minimized it by laughing. No. Yeah.
It's silly, and I know it's silly.
No, I don't even think, honey, I don't even think it's silly. I really, really don't. I swear I don't. It just made me giggle. But listen, It just made me giggle, but I don't think it's silly, and I don't want you to think I'm minimizing it. Absolutely not. And I mean, I get the world you just created, and I know that many people who are watching this video and many people who are on the call, they too got the world you just created. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But so there's a couple of things I want to say about it.
Okay. So
the first thing I want to say is, what then is there to bring the distinction acceptance to that you haven't already that would allow you to be your higher self?
Could you say that one more time? What
could you bring acceptance to?
Well, I mean, I guess what I've come to in my head is, if somebody really does, like me and wants to get to know me better and could possibly fall in love with me, those things aren't going to matter. They're going to love me for the person I am, and as I'm going to love them for the person they are. Because I can see it from both sides. I can look at it and say, okay, I can meet a guy who's 20 pounds overweight. He doesn't work out as much as he used to. He's 60 years old. He's not going to look like he's 30. And I can accept that. I really do. I really understand that and accept it. For some reason, I can't do the reverse. I'm having difficulty in realizing that they can also accept me the way that I can accept them. So I guess, so that's kind of where I'm just stuck. I'm just sort of stuck in that.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
I'll let you talk a lot, but I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
So first of all, I said, what could you accept? And what you created was a story. So what you said is, I can accept this story. That's what you said. And then you told the story.
Right.
And it was a fine story. But here's the problem with that, is that it keeps this acceptance that we're talking about, it keeps it conceptual. You understand conceptual? It's like a label. It's like a holding place, but it's not the thing. It's not the real deal. And then you said, now, you know what? I can accept others. I can accept other men, and I have my story about why they are the way they are, but I don't think they can accept me. So wouldn't you say that for sure, if you're not accepting you, now think about this. Think about this very, very clearly. If you're not accepting you exactly the way you are and exactly the way you're not, do you not believe or realize that gets projected onto this thing you call my world?
Yeah.
Listen, I know a lot of people, not a few. I know a lot of people who are not in great shape, and they are middle-aged or older, who are dating or who got married and who at least seem to be very happy. So I'm not suggesting that you're wrong. I'm just suggesting that you're not bringing the distinction acceptance, the way we're distinguishing it, you're not bringing it to an area where it's actually going to give you power. So already we know that you're having a hard time bringing acceptance to your body as it is. So I got that. What's something else you can bring acceptance to that would actually give you power? Any idea?
When you tell me, I will.
But I'm not gonna tell you. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let you simmer for a minute.
Okay.
And then we'll let somebody else speak, and then listen closely, because I will put in something that I think will give you the possibility of a shift. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, somebody else. Yeah. Jean, baby.
You know what I think is a really interesting concept that you brought up is
an interesting concept I brought up, and then you broke up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just fill in that blank.
Is that in accepting something that I could be dominating someone.
Yes. Or trying to dominate a situation. If I say to you, I accept that it's raining outside, that implies that I could reject it if I wanted to.
Right.
Which is stupid. But it is a part of our language.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
To acknowledge that a situation is the way a situation is between me and another human being, I can really get that there's a real difference there.
Yes, there is. There is. And maybe what you'll do is just play with that difference a little bit and see what opens up for you. And listen, this is not a promise to anybody, and I'm talking to you right now, of course. This isn't a promise that, you and your sister are going to somehow work things out. I mean, I believe, because I know who you are, that there's no way Joan can keep you out of her life for very long. That's what I believe. But that's just my own belief, given my relationship with you.
Yeah.
But we'll see, right? We'll see. Life is the way life is. And none of us can tolerate, nor can we, we can't afford, that's the word I was looking for. None of us can afford to give our life away anymore.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It is a very low way of being in life. And we just can no longer tolerate it. So thank you for jumping in there. Everybody who shared, thank you so much. I will say, if there's somebody who needs to jump in, like there's something right there and you want to, jump in now, otherwise I'm muting.
David?
Hey, David.
This is not a must-have, but I'm acting on the invitation.
That's fine. Yeah, go for it.
I'm looking at this in a different angle. So early in the call, I go to resistance as a condition for acceptance. And I thought, well, that's not reasonable because there's no loss of power when you're accepting something. It's like looking at the definition of acceptance, and there's got to be some added context. And what I'm resonating powerfully with is judgment and assessment as conditions to get to acceptance.
Yes, very good. Got that. Yeah. I like that. Thank you. I'm going to make a note of that, actually. Very good. Anything else you want to say before I mute?
No.
Hey, David, thanks. Thank you for being on the call.
You are now muted.
Okay, so there are things, and it's probably coming up for a lot of you now, there are things that are, in our view, difficult to accept, aren't there? Like, for instance, pain. How many of you have physical pain? And if I'm coaching you or working with you directly, I might say to you, include the pain. And you might look at me like I'm crazy. It's so much pain, I cannot. And then there's things about your body that you hate. And I say, include those things about your body and let go of hate. And you're like, oh, come on, if I could do that, I would have already done that. I wouldn't even be talking about it right now. But the truth is you can. It's just that for whatever reason, the story you tell yourself about who you are and the story you tell yourself about your life, that story will not allow for you letting go of whatever's in the way, that if it were out of the way, you would actually live in the acknowledgement of and the recognition of what's so. Now, hear me out. People die every day. People get hurt every day. People have relationships every day. People lose relationships every day. There is stuff going on all the time, and everybody on this call is a representation of at least one of those things. Anything, listen closely, this is the call. This is the call. Anything that you deem difficult to accept, you must put out the welcome mat for all of it. One of the meditations that we do is we have you scan your body, and we have you look for contractions, and we have you look for tension, and I ask you to breathe into that area, to get close to that area, to feel that area, not with the intention of it going away, but rather the invitation that if need be, it can stay forever. So you've got to put out the welcome mat for all of it, and that is the first step. Because you see, life is the way life is, and it is the way that it is in this moment, right now. And that is the gateway to freedom. What kind of freedom? Freedom from suffering over anything. Freedom from suffering that's connected to it. Because it really isn't one. We've added the suffering. And once you get that, once you lay out the welcome mat, once Antonia says, okay, I forgot how you say it, massive tissue, whatever you want to call it, welcome! And for those of you who don't know Antonia, she's beautiful. She looks stunning. And some of you would freaking die to have her body. Really, I'm not kidding. I mean it seriously. And this is what she now has to deal with at the time she has to deal with it. Antonia, you lay out the welcome mat authentically. Listen, this is it. This is it. And then, here's the magic. And then, you have an access to wisdom that you didn't have before. And you may have a shift in who you're being with regard to whatever it is you're looking at. And as everybody here knows, when you shift who you're being, it impacts everything. There may be actions that you would take if you weren't given so much energy to the resistance of what's so. So thank you all for listening. Don't go away just yet. Please do me a favor and open your calendars, like open it up in your iPads or on your computer or in your cell phone, or if you have to grab it, please grab your calendar. The first thing I want you to mark down is the last call of the year, which will be on December 18th at 6 p.m., the same phone number. You might want to write that phone number down because God only knows what phone number I might give you next month, okay? Okay, so do that. And then for those of you who are in the area, local enough, we, on that same day, on the 18th, will be having our annual Christmas party here from 2 o'clock until 8 p.m. And food will be served right from the beginning, so when you're here, food will already be out. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll have music until 6, and then we're going to do live music, by the way, and then we're going to do a white elephant exchange with no limits starting at 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock, and then we'll complete at 8 o'clock. So let me know if you'd like to come because we'd love to have you. And then lastly, and probably the most important thing, my next live event is January 5th. That is a Thursday at 7 p.m. at the DoubleTree Hotel in Sacramento. For those of you who are not local, or even if you are local and you just don't want to come out, we will be live streaming the event at the very same time. The topic, quantum evolution. Here's what I want you to know. You do not want to miss this event. And you want to bring anybody you can to this event. This is not an introduction to anything, though people will have the opportunity to hire me as a coach. They'll have an opportunity to do future programs. Absolutely, that will be there, but this is not an introduction. This is a bona fide workshop that is empowering, inspiring, and motivating. And nobody has to be a graduate of any other kind of work to get the work that we're doing and to get lots and lots of value. It's $10 if you go online on my website and register. It's $20 if you show up at the door. You'll be very proud of the evening. I know that you will, and I hope that you'll put it in your calendar and come. So with that, happy Thanksgiving. See you or hear you in December 18th. Thank you, and good night, everybody. Oh, you know, I say good night, everybody. I'm going to open the line just in case there's anything anybody wants to say before we go.
You are now unmuted.
Joanne?
Knowing that some people probably already disappeared. But is there anybody who wanted to say anything just to complete the call?
Just thank you. Good night.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Fantastic conversation.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thomas, you didn't give the time for the January 5th event.